Welcome, everybody, and thanks for coming to this. You are now going to witness the next installment of our series. If you did not know, we are doing the Biosafety Cabinet Mythbusters, and today's myth is, can multiple people work safely in a biosafety cabinet at the same time? So if you are not familiar with the whole theme, this is based off of the Mythbusters TV show, where they find a myth and then try and reason through it theoretically, and then they usually end up blowing something up. This is not exactly affiliated. We are not affiliated with the show, and so there's going to be a few differences. This is going to be mostly about biosafety cabinets. So what we're doing are that there are a lot of rules, guidelines, rumors, and myths for using biosafety cabinets. So we're trying to find out which ones are true, which ones are not, and most importantly, why. See if we can get some data behind all of this. So today, we're going to start off with what is a biosafety cabinet so that everyone is all on the same page here. Biosafety cabinets, or BSCs, are ventilated enclosures for work with biohazards assigned to biosafety levels 1 through 4. They provide 3 levels of containment. So you have your personnel protection, so you protect the person who's working in front of the cabinet. Your product protection, where you're protecting what you're working on. And environmental protection, so you can protect the lab, your coworkers, the environment around you, outside the building, everywhere. All biosafety cabinets contain at least one HEPA filter and a motor blower system. How they differ, of course, is how the air is flowing through those cabinets and how they handle their vapors. So today we're going to talk specifically about the Class 2 Type A2 biosafety cabinet. This one, as all Class 2 cabinets do, provide personnel, product, and environmental protection from particulates and aerosols. They have a minimum of 100 feet per minute intake air through that front access opening, and that's how it provides the personnel protection. All air is going in, so nothing hazardous can get out. The air is then recirculated through the cabinet, so that it comes around through a back plenum and is pushed through a motor blower system into a positive pressure plenum, where then part of the air is passed through a supply HEPA filter, providing unidirectional clean air to your work surface, which provides your product protection. The remainder air leaves through the positive pressure plenum through an exhaust HEPA filter to provide your environmental protection, so that all air being exiting the cabinet and being provided to the work surface has all been HEPA cleaned, so everything is nice and safe. We have a little video here that shows how it works. You can see that it has that nice, strong, inward flowing air coming in through the front of the cabinet. And we also, a lot of cabinets have these side suction slots, which help provide more product protection. You can see the unidirectional downward flowing HEPA air for your product protection. And of course, air can't go through a solid surface, so you have that smoke split, some to the front, some to the back. And Baker cabinets have this momentum air curtain that actually provides a nice more barrier to protect yourself. There's also the momentum air curtain. This is a very fast video, where you can see protection, and then you have your partially recirculating air. So that ready safe mode actually is very important, and not a lot of people know about that. Stop. Not a lot of people know about ready safe mode because it actually helps you keep your cabinet on all the time, and so shutting off a cabinet at night actually allows contaminants to enter the cabinet, so it's actually more hazardous. A lot of cabinets now have this night setback or ready safe mode where you can have the cabinet on but at a lower level to help keep your cabinet clean all the time. All right, now on to today's myth. The myth today is it's okay for more than one person to use a biosafety cabinet at the same time. Now, as you can see, there's quite a few people sitting in that cabinet working all together. And we have our theoretical reasoning section here, where we're going to have some reasons of why this may not be the best idea. So all manufacturers recommend a single person at a time. There's got to be a reason for it. We probably just don't want to sell you a whole lot more cabinets. There's probably something behind it. All cabinets are tested and certified empty, and adding more people would lead to more obstructions to allow for proper airflow. And there's also that increased potential for cross-contamination. So how do you know your neighbor who's 2 inches away from you could not be contaminating your work, or vice versa? So how we're going to go about testing this is we're going to see how the airflow is disrupted. You can do this a few different ways. First, you can do visually with smoke. That's an easy way to just see what's going on. And then, of course, you can lead into looking at the performance and the containment of the biosafety cabinet. You can use particle counting or NSF International Standard 49 biological testing criteria, to which all biosafety cabinets are certified. So this is what we're going to do. There are 3 different types of tests to test how the cabinet is providing containment. You can use personnel protection. So you have an actual nebulizer full of a slurry of bacteria spraying out of the cabinet, and then you capture the bacteria outside the cabinet to see how much is actually getting out. Vice versa, you can do the production test where you have the nebulizer outside the cabinet spraying inwards line the whole work surface with Petri dishes to see what gets in. And then, of course, you have the cross-contamination test, where you have a nebulizer either on the sidewall spraying across to see how far the bacteria is traveling, or the NSF now has their new test where the nebulizer sits in the center and either faces left or right, and you can see how far it goes from the nebulizer at that point. So our experimental design, we're going to pop 2 people in front of a cabinet with an 8-inch sash opening. I used a 6-foot cabinet in all of these experiments. It's a little difficult to find volunteers to stand in front of a cabinet while I'm going to spray bacteria at them. So I have 2 new lab mates. We have Ginger and George, who are my volunteers. We also wanted to see if the airflow was restricted due to the amount of bodies now in front of the cabinet. And usually how you measure inflow into a cabinet is you put a DIM, or a direct inflow measuring device, in front of the cabinet. It kind of attaches to the front access opening. Well, now I've got 2 bodies standing in front of there. I can't attach a DIM. So we used the principle of what goes in a cabinet comes out a cabinet. And so we tested on the exhaust. So we popped our DIM up on the top of the cabinet to measure how much is coming out, to try and correlate how much is actually entering the cabinet in the front. Let's say, thank goodness for high ceilings. Next, we looked at the airflow patterning around the front access opening, because we have a lot of hands sitting in front on my work surface. So we wanted to see how the smoke was being affected due to all those restrictions. And then, of course, we do microbiological testing to see how it's providing containment. And then we repeated it with 3 people because, hey, 2 people is not fun enough. Let's do 3. So Jean joined the lab as well. So we have Jean, Ginger, and George all lined right up there. And then, because an 8-inch sash is just too regular, we decided we're going to push the cabinet and repeat everything with a 12-inch sash and really challenge the whole system, because a 12-inch sash provides a lot of chances for contaminants to enter the cabinet. So we're going to try 12 inches with 2 people and with 3 people. Okay, so we're going to show how it actually happens with the smoke curtain. So it's actually a long, thin tube, a PVC pipe with a bunch of pinholes in it, and then the smoke is just being generated by a theatrical smoke machine. And here you can see, as we're moving the smoke curtain back and forth across the cabinet from left to right, you can see that a lot of smoke is entering into the cabinet there when you have the steel bar across there, which is it's a very standard piece of product that you use for the NSF international testing. It actually provides a break in the air curtain to allow for some contaminants to come in. If you don't have any sort of break in the air curtain, biosafety cabinets usually do very well at protecting contaminants from entering. So here we have all of our hands laying out there and the bar, and you can see that as it gets closer, until the video catches up, and then you can see this huge burst of contaminants coming into the cabinet. So that makes you think about that. You need that break in the air curtain, and that's going to be happening a lot while people are working. They're not going to be hanging out on the edge. They're going to be moving in and out of the cabinet, and there's a great potential for contaminants to enter into the cabinet. So now that we see that there's a potential for a breach of contamination, let's test with the microbiological testing. And so here we're going to conduct all 4 tests. We have the product and personnel protection tests, and then both types of cross-contamination tests, where we have one nebulizer set up on the sidewall or in the center facing either direction. And for those of you not intimately familiar with NSF microbiological testing, we have our pass-fail criteria sitting right there so that you can follow right along. Now, it talks about 10 CFUs or 5 CFUs. Those are single bacteria that grow into a full colony. So we're looking at less than 10 bacteria escaping the cabinet to come out and attack the personnel, or 5 single bacteria entering the cabinet. So it's very, very low amounts for our pass and fail criteria. So here's some of the setups that we did. We have the nebulizer facing outward, or facing inward on the left-hand side there with the Petri dishes lining up, so that's a product protection test. And then on the right, we have the nebulizer at the center facing the left direction with the plates lined up appropriately. Now, with a cross-contamination test, you always set up the plates 14 inches away from the nebulizer because we understand if you're spraying something, it's going to travel a little distance, but NSF dictates that it can't be traveling farther than 14 inches away. So beyond 14 inches, you should not have any interference from cross-contamination. Now, because we have those three bodies, we have to modify the NSF test just slightly. We can't set the nebulizer straight in the middle of the cabinet as dictated because we have Ginger standing right there. So we repeated the test with the nebulizer on either side of her and spaced everything out equally so that we could try and mimic the effect of having it in the center of the cabinet. And so here's our results. When we have two people sitting at a biosafety cabinet, the 6-foot cabinet with an 8-inch opening sash, our personnel protection was maintained, our product protection was maintained, and the cross-contamination from the sidewall was also maintained. However, the cross-contamination in the center was lost. So this means that people could cross-contaminate each other's samples based on how close they are, and there's that potential. When you add that third person in the cabinet, you lose your product protection and you lose your other cross-contamination. However, you do maintain personnel. So if you're only worried about people being safe, I guess you could do 3 people in a cabinet, but you're not going to have product protection or cross-contamination protection. Now, when we open it up to a 12-inch sash, you lose your personnel, you lose your product protection, and the only thing you can maintain is cross-contamination when it's coming from the sidewall. Everything else has a potential for being contaminated. And adding that third person in there doesn't help any situation. It's exactly the same. No personnel, no product, and no cross-contamination. So, in conclusion, is this busted or not? It's okay for more than one person to use a BSC at a time. And we're going to say, to guarantee full containment, which means you have product, personnel, and cross-contamination protection, no, it is not safe. So this myth would be busted. You should not use more than one person at a time. You will have cross-contamination no matter what situation you set up. Personnel protection may be maintained with an 8-inch sash, but it's definitely lost with 12 inches. Product protection is lost with 3 people and always with a 12-inch sash. So our recommendation, BSGs should be used by a single person, but if you absolutely must do more than one person, 2 people at most should be okay with a proper risk assessment, making sure that you have an 8-inch sash opening, that they're probably at least 14 inches away from each other, and that they are probably doing the same work so that they're not a chance they won't cross-contaminate each other. Also, we want to try and minimize inward movings, lateral movements within the cabinet, try and maintain very good biosafety practices. So, I just wanted to mention that we have some other Mythbusters on our websites. If you had missed any of our previous installments, some things to look for is how much is overloaded, how much can you stuff in a biosafety cabinet before you start losing your containment. We also have a nice little poster about what kind of disinfectants you can use in a biosafety cabinet and how to protect your stainless steel, which, just as a side note, please always follow up with a sterile water or ethanol rinse so that you don't get rusting or pitting of your steel. Can you use volatile chemicals in an A2, which we presented here at ABSA a couple years ago? How effective is a UV in a BSC? That one is a brand new one, just came out this fall. And can you use heat like a Bunsen burner or biosafety cabinet, which we did last year? And then, of course, one about HEPA filters. How do they work? And so if you have any other myths that you would like us to address, please send them to us. We have a website, an email address there, mythbusters@bakerco.com, and we will see what we can do to help get you some answers. Thank you.